right now. How are you, sir? Good to see you. Can you hear
Hey,
me okay?
I hear you great. How do you see me? Do you hear me? I'm just trying to. It's coming up on my screen right now.
It's a bit choppy. That's weird. That we'll deal with as we go, bit by bit. But hopefully
Give
we
me,
can. Oh, there you go.
yeah, yeah. Give me a second. I'm just gonna give me like literally 30 seconds. I'm just fine tuning it. Right? Is that
Sure. But good morning and welcome and hi and how are you? And I'll bring the audio up a touch and hopefully we'll be
perfect?
okay. Yeah. Um, and lock in there. We had so much we were talking about last time, and then because of Gremlins, we got interrupted. There's obviously been a little bit that's happened since, in terms of nothing happening, in terms of except for the Europeans actually sitting down with Trump and basically an intervention again. What was your takeaway from that meeting? And any word on the street as far as I don't know how Trump world is reacting to this, beyond what I see.
Oh, we're gonna break it all into. I just want to make sure because we have a lot of subscribers of viewers that really want to watch our show today. I'm trying to connect it though right now to. Are we live streaming on Substack also?
We're not yet. I will be adding Substack, but that takes extra effort. So
Oh,
we will
okay.
be
So
up
we will.
there.
Oh, okay. So as it goes
I
out, so right
will
now we're
I
on
will
YouTube.
replay this. Yeah, we're on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Kick, and what's the other fifth one? What other add channels to try to do that thing? And if I may, I will give a you can actually co-broadcast. You'll see a link in there. I'll send it over to your folks. I'll have Andrea send it to you. If you want to just co-broadcast this wherever you
Yeah,
would like, you can
definitely,
send it out.
absolutely,
I just sent
absolutely.
the studio restream. Oh wait, I think that just automatically joins it. So you might be able to see that link in your. There's Lev Remembers, Lev Parnas. Yeah, they've got it up. Good. Your
Yep.
guest channels are in there. I will. They're on. So we're good. Excellent.
Yeah.
I
So
love
it's so
that.
it, sh- so it should stream on Substack and on what's it
Beautiful.
called YouTube. YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay, pushing
Excellent.
YouTube.
So let's get started with your take on the Europeans meeting with him, and then we'll go to the total lack of anything and Vladimir Putin apparently just not done flicking Trump in the head.
Well, I mean, for those of you that follow me on Substack, I've been writing about it and talking about that this was all theatrics. I mean, what we
Mm-hmm.
watched play out in the past. I'm actually in the middle of putting together my next Substack letter to break down some of the things behind the scenes, because what you saw happen the past several days was all a cover up. It's a cover up for
Mm-hmm.
Donald Trump to be able to, meanwhile, try to paint the Epstein, narrative to try and get him clean, whitewash him out of it, get others into it. It's a, delay to be able to implement his project 2025 and send in the troops in Washington, D.C. Yesterday, he said he's now going to try to get rid of mail-in voting and electronic voting. He has ICE running around the streets, and at the same time, Putin also needed something. Putin needed time. Their economy is as shit. Their economy cannot sustain this much longer. Plus, Putin wants to take over certain strategical parts that I've been talking about that he's gearing up to attack in the Donbass area, the area that they're trying to
Mm-hmm.
negotiate without, swap, whatever they're talking about, to then be able to stop it. Because what really is happening behind the scene, Hal, is they want to do regime change. They do not see. This is where people don't understand
In
this.
Ukraine or here?
In Ukraine, I wish it was here. And
They
I think
did. They
we.
already did
I
that.
think,
That's
yeah.
like that was mission number one. Now they're doing mission number two.
No, definitely in Ukraine, and that is why. First of all, when Donald Trump talks about setting up a meeting with Vladimir Zelensky and the Kremlin agreed to it, I started laughing because I knew that was completely a lie. It was a bunch of bullshit. And today you were seeing it play out, where the Kremlin's coming out saying we're not planning on meeting with Zelensky. There still has to be certain conditions met, and it's not, and you have Caroline Levitt jumping on the podium saying, no, 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 he promised. Vladimir Putin promised. And Trump coming out saying, well, I got off, that meeting. I went and had a call with him, and he told me he's going to meet. It's all about it's about the theatrics that I'm telling you about, because
Right.
while the media is running around saying, "Oh my God, there might be a meeting," they're talking about this is great things. People, don't you understand? It's great things. They're talking. There's a. It's not great,
Yeah.
because
No.
if they were sincere and they were talking about peace, we wouldn't have missiles and shahads
Yeah.
and
Bombings every
drones
night.
every single night.
Doubling down, by the way, on civilian areas. Because again, it looks like from a strategic standpoint, Putin still thinks he's got Trump wrapped around his little finger, which by all appearances, he absolutely does. And how much that can get him from the United States is a question at this point. But at least with Trump, he thinks it is. And what he thinks he's going to do is like Trump's going to give him all this land of another country, which he doesn't have the right or the ability to do, and land they haven't even conquered yet. So basically, they can just start obliterating citizens in the periphery so that those people have to flee out, so that when the land is, in theory, handed over to them, it will be free of Ukrainians, and they can just kind of move in because it's just basically a graveyard, and they can do whatever the hell they want with it, which is turn over the earth and get whatever's out of it. It's not like they're going to build key cities or New York there.
Well, no, it's
New
bigger than
Moscow.
that. It's much bigger than that. Hal, what I'm not only hearing, but what I've been part of, listening to different rooms and conversations. You have to remember, I'm the guy he sent in there. I'm the original first guy that gave the first quid pro quo to Zelensky.
Yeah.
That's where it all started. The first impeachment, when he came in, I was the first one that was greeted him from the United States and started extorting him before he even became president of Ukraine. So I know very well how these conversations and these people are. Plus, you have to also understand, I've been in. Not only was I born in the Soviet Union, but I also went back there. For those of you that watched my movie or read my book, Shadow Diplomacy, I went back there when I was 18 years old. And for the past 35 years, I've spent most of my life in that part of that region. I know these people very well. I've seen Vladimir Putin come from a nobody, from a KGB agent, become the mayor of St. Petersburg, and then transform into the president, which now he's a dictator and have taken over. I've seen all of the transfer. I've seen how it happened. I've seen the oligarchs that were nobody or criminals, or some of them were in prison, that are now, surrounding his inner circle. I've also
Right.
seen these people come to New York City in the 90s. I've seen them funnel all that money through Trump Towers and, the Steve Witkovs and the Donald Trumps of the world. I've seen all those
Right.
relationships built.
Okay. There is one thing. Hold on. I want to make sure you can still hear me. Okay. But
Yeah.
there's one element that I want to sort of address in this, because again, those are incredible stages that you've been witness to, and for those that the Cliff Notes version of you and Rudy and your former partner were to go over and deliver this message in, I guess, verbally or written on rice paper to be eaten in a soup later or whatever, that what they were going to do is, you start an investigation. We don't give a shit if it actually turns into anything. We just need you to say there's an investigation, because everything with Trump is a reboot. That's all he understands. And specifically, he was going on the Comey thing, that Comey coming out and saying that there might be something to the Hillary Clinton thing was enough to give him an edge in certain areas to help him win the 2016 election. He was trying to recreate that in 2020, essentially, against Joe Biden. Now, we have not seen the Hunter Biden laptop because it doesn't exist. There's a hard drive called laptop that makes in circulation, but I need to see an actual laptop before I allow anybody to call it a laptop. That said, the strategy, it has a limited runway. You can only do this for so long, right? You can only, because he's got to pay off at some point. This is where I think the Epstein stuff is catching up to him. And I also think the reality of what Putin wants from this exchange, do you think at this point, that Trump has been saying he's tapping me along and those kind of things, is that the performative side, or is that his brain leaking? Because it seems like this is the first time he's noticed. He seems to fall back into his habits. But this is the first time he's sort of noticed that he's being had. And
it's a combination, Hal. It's a combination, because you got to understand, Trump and Putin are what you see, and I say this, and very important for you to understand. It's not what you see that the media is reporting or what Trump is saying. It's what the real thing is, what they're not talking about, the media, or what you don't hear Trump saying.
Sure.
Do you understand what I'm saying? It's not the
Yeah.
statements that they're saying; it's the actions that they're doing. Trump could turn around and say, "Oh, I'm pissed at him. I'm talking about," but he's not sanctioning him. He's
Right.
still rolling out the red carpet. So
And he's
it's not
dragging his
what.
feet while the attacks are happening in the Donbass, and while they're hitting more civilian
Right. I
buildings
mean,
deep
just think about it.
inside. Yeah,
I mean, even the
it's
facade,
delay.
right. He comes to you, says he wants the killing to stop. Okay, well, Putin could just stop the bombarding and the killing stops, and then you could continue. But then, even just to the fact that just think about how ridiculous the theatrics have become. On his way there, on the plane to Alaska, he went in the back to speak to the press. The press asked him, "What's going to happen, Mr. President, if Vladimir Putin doesn't decide to do a ceasefire?" He said there's going to be very serious consequences, very serious. Now he comes back. Not only are there no serious consequences, folks, but there is Trump is now saying there's no need for a ceasefire. Let the
Right.
fighting, let the boys do what they do. Let the fighting continue. Let it go on for the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, whatever, until something they get tired
Another
because
50 days. Right.
or whatever the 50 days, and let's work on a peace deal now. But now here comes the problem with the peace deal. How can you work on a peace deal when you have an invader that invaded a sovereign country, took over land, kidnapped over and stole over 20,000 kids, killed, maimed, raped, pillaged a bunch of the country, displaced millions of peoples from their homeland, destroyed infrastructure, destroyed
Hmm.
generations of humans, and you want them just to say stop and we're thankful for that. No,
Right.
Ukrainians are fighting for their sovereignty, for their life, for their freedom, just like the Americans did in our Civil War and our wars in World War II, just like the world did in World War II. Nobody,
Yeah.
we, just think about what Trump is saying. It's the same thing as if everybody turned around when Hitler, had everybody in concentration camps, said, let's stop. Let's give him what he got, and let's just take that little piece of the world because so we need the killing to stop.
They
But the
still
killing
control
is not
Auschwitz. They would still
correct.
consider, like, not only the town around Auschwitz, the actual town itself, but the killing sites themselves, wherein they could get rid of the evidence of those crimes and create this fabricated idea that it never happened, which is also part of Putin's plan. Is that if you can move into a place and turn the soil effectively and remove all evidence of what you did, because it's now your territory, and by the time anybody gets in there, you can make it look like nothing ever happened.
Oh,
Then it's
absolutely.
harder for the Hague to try you, for example, or him to be brought up on war crimes charges,
They're not
or
even worried. They're not even
right.
worried about that. Hal, we have Donald Trump has destroyed all sense of accountability.
Mhm.
Putin's not worried about the Hague. Netanyahu's not worried about the Hague. Trump is not worried about the Hague. That's
Right, but
none.
they could make the case that they should be allowed to travel to countries that would be signatory to the Hague because there's no evidence of a crime there. So even if the Hague wanted to do
Yeah,
something,
no,
they can just
absolutely. They're
blow it
gonna
off, or you know what I mean?
listen. They're gonna cover up 100% because part of what you're saying, and I agree with you 100%. Part of the cover up is rewriting history, just like he's doing here
Yeah,
with the Epstein files. Same cover up, same rewriting of history. Same thing he did with January 6th, pardoning all the January 6ers, saying it never happened, rewriting
yeah,
history. Same thing he's trying to do with 2020, even having Vladimir Putin come here and say that, hey, the election was rigged. You have just think about it. He had Vladimir Putin come here literally only to do two things. A, give him talking points how he would have never invaded if Donald Trump was. I
right.
mean, that is the biggest bullshit I've ever
Yeah,
seen. I mean,
nonsense. Right. Yeah.
nonsense. Second of all, he turned around and gave him talking points for an interview he did with Hannity afterwards that now he's using to implement,
Well,
trying to
that
take
goes.
away our. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, the elections, right? Like, so
Yeah.
that he, giving him basically evidence in 2020 was the whole point, which is back to what you were sent over to Ukraine to do. This is, you could argue that he's trying the same play that he did, but Putin is like, he'll go, I'll give you a show in Alaska. I'll let you come over here and say whatever, you can talk first and I'll just, walk around like I've just been reamed by you like we always do. But in exchange, what you have to do for me is you have to say I really won the 2020 election and that you didn't interfere with that either, so that we can get rid of this, which he's never going to be able to do. But that's what he asked for. And then this whole thing, like the war never would have started, which is also just garbage.
But
Like,
hell, that is, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that's what that meeting was about, and that's what the
yes,
negotiations were about. It wasn't about Ukraine. It was about saving lives. It was about for Putin. Putin needs to get back to legitimacy. He needs for Russia to sustain. They need to get back into the economical world. They need America to lift the sanctions. They need Trump to be able to bring it back into the G8. Everything that you see Trump doing slowly. That's what that was. There was a normalization. And in Russia, that's all the media talks about, how not about Ukraine, not about the summit, how this was a huge step in finally normalization between Russia and American relationship to go much forward. And now I'm hearing there's plans about even more things happening, where you're going to start seeing also planes start flying back and forth, businesses, certain sanctions lifted, and Trump is going to use the platform that it's money to us, that it's just like he
right.
excused getting a Qatari jet present because he said
Or
he
Putin
raised
in
fire,
India, or
or
Pakistan and India,
India,
because
absolutely.
that's I would argue that the conversation about India and Pakistan, which was apocryphal and nonsense. Obviously, Pakistan and India came to their own conclusions that a breakout nuclear war would be terrible for everybody, and they've had dust ups like this before, and it went up and down exactly like it did, almost in the same arc. But he wanted to make this case that I came in and I said, hey, you guys stop all this war stuff. Let's just do trade. And that seems very reasonable to a section of his base that believes he's this magic deal maker. And so I think he wants that he's going to try and overlay that into the sort of the situation with Russia and Ukraine. Like, look, we just want to do deals with both of these countries. And if we can just achieve this, everybody will be happy just trading and
It's
making
worse
money. We'll
than
all make money
it's
situations,
worse
right?
than that. Hell, no. The one thing I want everybody to understand and make it very clear: nowhere in Donald Trump's plans or Vladimir Putin's is Ukraine have any say, or Europe has any say in how things will go on or done. This is all
Gotcha.
part of eventually the full takeover of Ukraine. I will give you the roadmap. So far, everything I've told you, everybody that's been reading has seen that it's come to fruition. Not that I wish I was wrong. I want to be
Mm-hmm.
wrong, but the only way I could be wrong is by excuse me, something
That's okay.
is by everybody stepping up and for us together collectively stopping these tyrants from what they're doing, because their plan is to right now buy as much time, because what Witkov is being sold by Dmitriev and by Putin is that Russia another week, another 2 weeks, another 3 weeks is going to take over all of Donbass. They're
Mm,
setting up a major invasion, and after that, they've told Trump at that point we will do a ceasefire. The purpose of doing a ceasefire is because at that point, what they're going to do is part of the ceasefire is going to do they're going to force mandatory elections in Ukraine. Part of the elections in Ukraine
right.
is then going to be to install a pro-Russian, pro-Trump president that will
Mm-hmm.
then negotiate and basically do a merger and become Ukraine will become part of Russia. That is the strategy, and this is the ideal game plan that they're trying to put together, because Zelensky is a thorn in their side. That is
Mm-hmm.
why Putin will never meet with Zelensky, because the second he meets with Zelensky, he legitimizes him.
Right.
And in Russia, that's not the case. So, and I know you're going to have Philip later, and you could even ask Philip some of the things I'm telling you.
Sure.
I'm sure he'll validate and tell you, confirm some of the stuff I'm telling you. So it's a much bigger plan, and that's why the fact that yesterday you saw this theatrics of him sitting there, all the Europeans grogging, and talking about, just think about this, they were talking about, you had leaks coming out all day long that Trump might put boots on the ground, that Article 5
Right.
type of protection and everything like that. They were laughing in Russia. They were
Yeah.
laughing. I was getting phone calls. They were laughing because it was like Trump was playing out like just like they all planned out, just like it was done. And you had the world, you had the media, and you had the European leaders
Well,
and
that hot mic
Zelensky
moment,
eating out of his
hot
hands.
mic moment was as revealing as you need be. I do not think that maybe at some point in the past, a long time ago, when he was buddy with Jeffrey Epstein and they used to party together, and he understood don't use email, write everything on rice paper and eat it and shit it out later, whatever his thing was to keep himself out of the circulating stories. Once the evidence breaks, stay out of the evidence seems to be the thing he learned from Roy Cohn the
Yeah,
most, which is you can do whatever the fuck you want, just don't leave any
right,
evidence behind.
right.
Police your brass is what he learned from Roy Cohn. And so, and for those that don't know, police your brass means picking up your shells after you kill somebody and you shoot them. That you take the brass with you. You don't leave shell casings behind. So he was taught to police his brass by Roy Cohn, and he was fairly successful in that. How much of he still has is now mythical amongst his followers, specifically in the right-wing media, that he is still this 5D chess playing genius, and he's simply not. And like I said, I may give him credit for at least being able to act out these traits before. He seems increasingly less capable of doing that. And the hot mic moment, there's always a debate in the hot mic world. Was it really a hot mic moment, or was it a planned hot mic moment? Ever since the first hot mic, somebody right after it just said, hey, how about this? How about you leave the mic hot, I'll say what everybody wants to hear me
Right.
say, and then I'll deny it later and they'll love it because it worked for the last guy and it'll really help
Yeah.
us with a segment of our electorate. This case, I don't think so.
No,
And
this
that
was
weird,
a hot mic. This was hot
yeah,
mic. You're
this was a
talking about
real one.
when you're talking about the one because there was a several, I think, but you're talking about the one where he said that he'll do it for me.
Yeah,
He'll
that
stop
Putin
the war.
wants to do a deal for me, which is
Right.
just batshit.
Well, no, well, it's exactly what I'm talking about. This is exactly the pitch there because you have to understand. Just think, you have to. I have to break it down a little bit for you. So you have Vladimir Putin meeting with Steve Witkov 5 times. Five
Yeah,
times. Vladimir Putin talking about how Steve Witkov is a major player in these negotiations. That right there should tell you something. That's never happened. Nobody's ever met Vladimir Putin 5 times. No president, no dignitary. I don't think his own people have met him 5 times in 6 months. Okay.
yeah,
So the fact that he is requesting Steve Witkoff, because that means I'm telling you, and that's not, forget about my sources, forget about what I know. I'm just giving you, like, from the 30,000
yeah,
feet, what you should just like really realize. That means that Steve Witkoff is buying into whatever they're selling him.
sure.
Russian propaganda. And what the Russian propaganda is, that first of all, is the only reason we haven't taken over all of Ukraine is because of you, Donald Trump. We could take over Ukraine at any moment. We could take care of Europe if we want to. We're the powerful, what's it called? But we're not doing that because of respect to you, because we wouldn't have done that if
Right.
you were still in power. We'd be talking. But because the Bidens and
Yeah,
this is the shit that they are feeding him. Not Putin to Trump, but Witkov is coming in the story, and he's saying, "Listen, they're gonna
yeah,
take him over. They're gonna take him over, and then we're gonna have a huge relationship and business going on." Because remember the one thing, remember that mineral deal that was that big news that was supposed to save Ukraine, that if Ukraine signed a mineral deal with the United States, not only would it pay back all this money, but nobody would mess with JD Vance. Remember that whole thing? Nobody's going to mess with Ukraine if we have a deal with them. Well, Ukraine signed a deal with them. The
right.
fighting is going on with those minerals. Trump is currently negotiating those minerals and with Russia, as Russia owns those minerals. This is
Yeah,
this is the conversations that are going behind
yeah.
the scenes.
Yeah,
So
all Russia has to do is offer him at a 20% drop in whatever price he'd have gotten that he'd had to pay Ukraine, and they get to keep, it's 100% profit because it was never their land to start with. And he's like, oh, okay, well, that's a better deal for America. I'm America first. Therefore, I will just buy spoils. At this point, it's hard to argue that he wouldn't, if he thought he could get away with it, argue like, let's bring back slavery. I mean, it's still legal all over Africa and they're willing to sell us people and we need labor. So instead of immigrants, why don't we just buy people? Like he's that close to that kind of logic at this point with his brain turning to tapioca. Now, Steve Witkov, by the way, was golfing with Trump the day he was almost shot on the golf course. Remember the second attempt? That's who he was golfing with when that happened. They were both there, which is very weird. And then he becomes the primary negotiator in all of these areas. By the way, areas where Russia has its claws in all these circumstances, not only the creation of the PLO, but also just, funneling money all through the Middle East and through Gaza and through the West Bank. I mean, everybody there they're firing AK-47s for a reason. The African warlords that are slaughtering each other all over these places while the Wagner group runs off with gold, all of them using AK-47s. That's not an accident. It's a feature, not a bug.
I mean, listen, there's so much behind the scenes, but I always say follow the money. Listen, when I was in that part of the world, I can't tell you how many times people would try to solicit me and try to induce me and try to bribe me and try to because they knew I was so high up
You had
to
access.
Donald, I had access to the president of the United States. So Steve Witkov is no different. Steve Witkov is the left Parnas. I was the original Steve Witkov. In the first administration, he had me doing this work. Now he has Steve Witkov. But here's the difference. You didn't see Lev Parnas' son, Aaron Parnas, or Daniel Parnas, or any of my kids.
By the way, a bright kid, very smart, great conversation I got to have with him. You should be very proud.
Thank you, Hal. Extremely
as a father.
Proud. Extremely proud. I mean, but to that extent, you didn't see Aaron running around doing crypto deals and land deals while I was in Ukraine and Russia, or Aaron doing oil deals and my family making billions of dollars while I was there trying to pass this money. But now you're seeing that. You're seeing things you're not seeing. What you're seeing is, just think of what we're seeing. We're seeing, and we're being told that the Trumps have made over $3-4 billion in the first 6 months he's been in office. But what you're not being told to is who's partners with Eric and Donald Trump, because Eric and Donald Trump is Twiddledee and Twiddledum. They couldn't $6 or $3, let alone $3 billion in 6 months. They're partners with a gentleman by the name of Zach Witkov. Zach Witkov is Steve Witkov's son.
Right.
Partners with them in their world financial crypto coin. Now, the one thing, again, I always tell you, this is important. It's what they're not talking about. So everybody's talking about crypto, and they're talking about all these people. They're naming the Chinese. They're naming all of these crypto people that are going to visit, influence. But do you know the one thing nobody spoke about? You haven't heard one thing when it mentions crypto. You haven't seen one name associated. Any Russians? You don't see no Russians, and they're huge in crypto.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're huge in crypto. So what I'm saying,
where do you think Epstein's money went? It's money laundering. It is simply a blind money laundering pocket. They can literally, they just create a dark tunnel where they can move the money wherever they want. Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, it's what we're not seeing. It's what we're not hearing. It's what we're not, I'm saying to, yes, keep your, watch the, Middle East, watch the Qataris, watch the plane, watch this. But you know what? What happened? You're going to tell me that right now there's no Russian crypto billionaire.
There we go. Yeah, there we go.
You're right. There. You're going to tell me that there's no. Yeah, and this is what I want to ask you, Hal. So there's such a Russia connection. They're so close. Everybody wants to do business. Trump is giving it up. But how come you don't hear all of a sudden Russia investing money into the United States, any of the billionaires? How come you don't hear Russian oligarchs trying to go into his crypto dinners? Or how come you hear nothing to do with Russia? No, but because it's all happening behind the scenes. It's all being set up. Because when we hear about it, when Trump starts announcing it, and I promise you it's going to start happening very soon, because the plan is once he officially starts walking away from Ukraine, once it gets dragged out where it's, listen, you know what, I tried, I did whatever I can, they need to, we'll get back to it, start putting it on that type of back burner, you're all over going to see simultaneously all of a sudden relationships open up. Because what my sources and contacts in Russia are telling me, that the main thing that they're talking about is how this summit restarted. Basically, it was the end of their Cold War with the United States. Because right now, while the world thinks that they're sitting there negotiating peace plans, they're sitting there negotiating the resurrection of the Russian Empire with Trump's help, bringing him back into the world and financial level. And that's what's taking place right now under the pretenses of some peace talks that are happening.
I got to say, like, I brought this up with Philip Ittner a couple times, and it's been I think we all have moments where we've woken up to a reality where we're like, how did I not see this? And we've all had that experience in our lives. And one of the areas was around the 91. And I think, the Soviet Union going away and Russia appearing, and this kind of idea that they're going glass-nosed and they're going to normalize. And I watched the entirety of the Moscow Music Peace Festival with Skid Row and Cinderella and Ozzy and all these guys. And I was like really excited about the potential, I think, like a lot of people were. And now it increasingly looks like a rope-a-dope by the KGB. We can't win overtly, so let's win covertly. Let's pretend, let's make them think they won. Let's fall back. It's going to be rough, but we'll seize power because everything will go chaos and we'll take over. And over time, whether it was controlled chaos or they didn't have a choice, it kind of doesn't matter, because over time, they certainly, signing the 1997 NATO-Russia founding agreement, went back on it, invaded Chechnya, invaded Georgia, invaded Ukraine. Everything that they've said that looks like another 91. Yes, we want to make peace with the world. Yes, we want to be engaged in business. Yes, we want to build pipelines. All of them have an ulterior motive that reeks of the KGB now. And like in retrospect, considering Putin running the place, considering his attitude towards human life, and what's occurred, what the actual stuff that's happened, their attack on Ukraine, Georgia, Chechnya, their attempted control of Kazakhstan with their like anti-riot police that they sent in at that one point, right? Which didn't work, but
he controls Kazakhstan, he controls Belarus. So let me give you a little quick for your subscribers and for your viewers, a little quick history lesson, because I don't know, some of them might not be old enough to remember the Cold War, might not remember when the fall of the Russian Empire in the 90s. Yeah. It's been already almost 35 years. But let me just tell you, because I was there. I was actually in Russia, in the Soviet Union, the day the tanks rolled up, the day that Gorbachev got taken off. And and you had that whole coup happen, and when fell apart, the Soviet Union fell apart. Right there is where America and the world made their biggest mistake, because at that point, the KGB was done. The KGB was like on its last year, and Putin and there was a few other old schoolers that were there that were like the last breath. And you're 100% right. They played into that by promising the West everything they wanted to hear, but the only thing they kept, and this is where it said, the only thing they was part of this, it said, was, we'll do anything you say, we'll give you anything you want, but we retain our nuclear weapons.
Right.
And that's where we messed up, because at that point, is if we would have taken away just like we took away Ukraine's nuclear weapons, and just like if we would have taken away their nuclear weapons, we would be living in a different world right now, and probably,
no question, yes,
probably in a beautiful Russia, growing economically. We'd be it'd be I think it'd be a different part of the world. But because America's also, not, I wouldn't say stupidity, but corruption that we have in our own governments and all the buy-offs, the lobbyists, because remember, what happens at that point is the KGB spend lots of money buying lobbyists here and pushing it, so, and they allowed it. And Putin was the chosen one. He was there, he was young, and they started promoting. And I watched him go through when they pushed him to become the mayor of St. Petersburg. Then when all of a sudden Boris Yeltsin took him, and then they pushed him, Nemtsov started pushing him through, and then slowly but surely, then and all of a sudden, he got onto the world stage. He lied. Today, in my one of my Substack letters that I'm writing, gonna put out there, I found an old clip in 2002 where Vladimir Putin comes out and talks about a young Vladimir Putin that just got into office, talks about how Ukraine should it has the right to become NATO. Ukraine has the right to pick their own sovereignty, and you'll hear
Hmm.
and hear some of the things that it was all part of the job because they were buying time, because he knew that they had the oil. He knew they had the resources. They just need enough time to build up their powerful machine. But the KGB needed to do a changeover. He called it
Right.
the FSB. So the world thought the KGB disappeared, they died, but they just became more modernized, more bigger, more better, more stronger. They became the FSB, his personal, and that's what Donald Trump. He's mimicking, just like what Putin did there. He's doing here because what Trump's KGB or FSB is called ICE. That's why he's given them so much money. That's why they're
Right.
controlled by Tom Homan, a man that's only loyal to him, not to the Constitution, not to the Senate, the governor. He's not the Congress. He's not been appointed. He's been put into place, just like over there in Russia. So Putin was always this was always okay, and that's why I say when some people say another thing we talk about is first of all that was not the real Putin that was there. The real Putin sits in a bunker
Right.
and nobody sees him. There's 3, 4 by numbers, especially after COVID. He's not well. He's very dement, and this whole thing messaging in it is being run by a system. That
Hmm.
system is the KGB, the FSB. This is the system, and the system is to reunite back the Soviet Union more stronger, and but this time with Poland, with the Baltics, back with the
Yeah, he's
Czechoslovakia.
he's he's Tretiak from The Saint. The whole,
Yeah,
like a
Pu-
Russia not feared, revered, not feared, whatever.
yeah,
Like that idea that he wants to rebuild the greatness of Mother Russia. The
yeah.
Soviet Socialist Republic part of it is less important than this is Russian territory.
Oh
So
yeah.
Ukraine is Russia, Georgia is Russia, and anywhere, and then
Anywhere
ultimately
they
the
speak
Ruski
Russian.
Mir.
Anywhere they speak Russian. See, and this is the part of the invasion. Tomorrow, if you're going to have a population in Germany and they speak Russian, it's an excuse to say, wait a second, you're trying, because this is why he's going into Ukraine, because he's saying they stop Russian people from speaking Russian, or there's Russian, it's an excuse to go. And that's the ideology. But again, Putin is yes, he's powerful, yes, he's manipulative, he's an incredible strategical spy and all of these things, and he's a monster, but he's also the face of a machine, of a system, just like right now what Trump is over here. Because if you take a look at what we have going on here right now, we have our own, we call it the deep state, we call whatever you want to call it, but Donald Trump is not running policy here. Donald Trump is running around causing chaos. Donald
Yeah,
Trump is causing around screaming,
he
yelling.
wasn't hired for his capability by
Yeah,
Putin.
but the
Yeah,
people that are really running our country right now and implementing all these are people like Stephen Miller, people like Russell Vaught, people like now Susie Wiles, people
right.
that are sitting in the background and are writing policies that are telling people like Pam Bondi how to change rules and regulations, telling how to Cash Patel to do it. These people like that have been put into place, and I know all of them very well, Hal. Each and every one of them, I personally, from text messages, emails, I've spent many days, many years in not with just Donald Trump, with almost his whole administration. And I could tell you the reason why somebody said Heritage Foundation, absolutely, because the reason they were put in there is because they are servants. They don't. Pete Hegseth is not somebody that could run it. That's why when we sit there and say, "How is Pete Hegseth there?" Because he's not running anything. He's being told what to do, just like Donald Trump's being told what to do. And we are right now behind the scene. There are some people that are putting together a KGB, FSB, that system in place to have. And that's why when people say, oh, Donald Trump wants to stay in office, it's not even about Donald Trump wants to stay in office. They're trying to steal their ideology to what they're trying to implement to stay in power forever. So if it's Donald Trump or it's somebody else, and that's why they're going the extra steps right now by putting the National Guard not only in Los Angeles but in DC, because what's happening, Hal? You don't see the media talking about the Guard in DC anymore. You instead, people are now normalizing it. They're getting off, walking around. They're seeing the Guard. Oh, it's okay. It's part of the psychological brain manipulation, because the normalization of seeing federal guards on the streets. They're normalizing how ICE is. If 6 months ago, 3 months ago, we were screaming at our lungs when somebody was getting carried off the street by ICE, now you don't see it anymore. Now it's a normal occasion. It happens every day, happens all over the country. People are just getting, you could go stand at a food truck, buying a taco or some kind of sandwich. All of a sudden, ICE raid in and picking up, starts grabbing people. It's not as huge as we,
It's also I would like to say, just for the record, it's also happening a lot less. And this is like something the White House is also trying to paper over, because Trump, again, he promised everybody in the world. He ran as Santa Claus and is having to govern as the Grinch. That happens a lot with politicians, but he literally promised everyone everything. Peace in an hour with one phone call. Not only did he say he's going to do the biggest deportation in the history of America, like we're going to round these people up and get them the hell out of our country, right? Because they're dangerous. They're psychos and murderers and child molesters, and they're from asylums, right? And then he says not only that he's going to do that, but there are 25 million new illegal immigrants that entered the country in the last 4 years, which is just horseshit. It's a cartoon. It's like, it makes no sense. Anybody with eyes can see that the volume of immigrants in big cities and small cities is not, they've got a pocket of 100,000 women and children here that were shipped into New York State or something like that, when they had these big groups of children and they had to take care of them. But even if you added all of those up, there's less than 500,000 that even came through and were rejected. So the numbers are like the Haitians in Ohio, or the people in Colorado, the Venezuelans. There's nowhere near that number. So not only did he make up this 25 million number, but the problem with that is it makes it seem like, well, shit, if there's 25 million more, that means there's at least 35 million illegals. You should be able to do at least 5 airplane loads a day getting these fuckers out of here. And why can't you? They're yelling in MAGA world, anyways, on the media side of it, at Stephen Miller and other folks and Homan. That's why he's catching so much hell at these gatherings, and they've had to shrink them down to just the press that likes them, because anybody goes, Biden's numbers are better at deportation than yours. Obama's were way better. Where are these people? They don't exist. So part of the reason I think why he's jumping from thing to thing is not only to hide Epstein, but also to hide the fact that the tariffs aren't working and they're not going to make enough money to make up for the tax cut by any means. That's well known right now. Part of the ones where he's like, it hasn't hurt as much as they said, it's because he didn't implement them. They've been punting. So they haven't gone into effect. So that you don't even know the economic effect, and everybody around him does know it. So they're just trying to keep him punting, tacoing his way through this. So everywhere we are, there is an area where he's trying to distract with the next distraction. And Russia, is damaging and dangerous and awful and villainous as it is, for him, it is like him going, maybe this will work to some degree. I'm sure Putin has more of a, and the people around Trump have more weight on it than he does. But it seems like another thing, like, look, anything but Epstein.
And listen, look, he's doing a lot of things, but I wrote in my Substack letter, I want to just quote out of here and give you exactly what the 4-step, his blueprint that I've spoken to my sources inside, what they're doing, what's taking place. I've spoken about it, and you could go see. It's not like I'm talking about after the fact. I've been warning people about this already for weeks and months, and now it's coming to fruition. Step 1 was to employ the National Guard, which we've seen him do. and he did it first in Los
Right.
Angeles. He now is doing it in Washington D.C. And for those of you that's saying, "Oh, it's no big deal," or we're never going to normalize it, but it is being normalized because we don't have the crime that is happening. He's not sending the National Guard into the places in Washington D.C. where crime ridden. It's all for show. It's all about,
Yeah.
and he's talking about where is he going to go next. He's going next into New York City. He's going next into Chicago. So this is all part of, again, getting people used to it. Not that we will get used to it. I'm not saying we will, but it's all part of psychologically. Because just think about it. If I told you a year ago that we would be here today, that he would be able to take an American citizen off the streets and deport him or throw him out without due process, talking about taking away our rights and throwing people into like, made up concentration camp, you said it would never happen, but it's happening. So what I'm
Oh
saying
no,
to you,
for the record,
not yeah,
you
not
speak in
you. I'm saying
generalities.
yeah, I'm saying
Yeah,
yeah,
I specifically said that all of this is they're going to do everything they can, even the illegal stuff, because but by the time the justice system catches up to the actions that are happening, dude's already out of the country.
absolutely.
That's
So
their
now,
goal.
right. So now,
Right.
step two taking place right now as we see it. Just yesterday, he sat there and said that they are figuring out, and the Republicans will figure out how to make sure we get rid of mail-in voting. He wants to get rid of mail-in voting because Vladimir Putin and others have told him nobody else does mail-in voting. Mail-in voting is the only reason why the 2020 elections were rigged, and it's the only reason why he lost. So not only mail-in voting, but now he wants to get rid of electronic voting machines because they are all corrupted, and he wants it to go back to hand counting, the old-fashioned way. And but what's being happening, what I'm hearing in the background is the law regulations, the laws that are being rewritten by the DOJ, how that hand counting will take place and who will be able to. It's another part of implanting your own people to make sure
Sure.
that hand counting takes place.
Yeah, I mean it's old-fashioned Saddam Hussein shit, really. I mean that's
Absolutely.
and how Putin stays in power for a long time. I will say this though, that our constitution is written in such a way that you can't. The states,
I
he can
know.
try and stop it, but the
I know.
states can stop it. There are not other rules in other countries that do protect that
But
kind of thing. And there are Republicans, like I said, one of the things that we have going for us in some cases is self-interest. That there are people who want to be president after Donald Trump and they don't want to be Don Jr.'s vice president in name only or follow whoever Susie Wiles decides to feed into the line. There is an actual separation of there's enough egos in the Republican Party that they won't allow him to just hand it over to the next person because they know they're not it. John Thune, is who the Republicans want to run effectively because he looks like a hero and he's 9'10", and they like to them they like this is the great figurehead that we could use. You can't run him if Susie Wiles and Stephen Miller pick Trump's successor and just shove Vance through, and Vance picks Eric, right? Don Jr.,
no,
right?
but how they don't have that power, and there's those Republicans. I know it's hope, and you're saying to you, but I could tell you they're not there because they're all full of shit. Because all of them, that's why they first of all, if any of them really were that, they would have not confirmed half the bullshit confirmations they did with the Tulsi Gabbers, the Hexegs, and everything else. Second of all, they wouldn't have pushed through that big ugly bill, which none of them wanted to do, and they all did it anyway because of the pressure. I agree with you. Yes, they have their what's it called, but right now, because of the way they've given him so much power, so much control, so much situation that the only way they will come out and stop is if right now we stop. The number one thing is what I keep raising, is sounding the alarm, is what he's doing. It's called election reform, because the first two steps he's already doing. The third step he's implemented with ICE. What he's going to do is he's going to have ICE patrol and the voting booths. You're not going to have people going voting the way they want to. And fourth, if he sees it going all wrong, and you heard it him, and this is what I tell everybody, he makes these little smirks and remarks, and you think it's nothing. But if you go back in history and take a look at every smirk and remark he made, came out to fruition the way later on it became serious. Yesterday
Hmm.
in the Oval, he was sitting there, and he had, because this was a setup call. It was a setup question. It was, the question was done by he's not even a real reporter. Here's Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend,
Yeah, Bryant. Yeah, Brian
Brian, whatever,
Green. Whatever.
whatever his
Yeah,
name is, whatever his name
Brian
is.
Taylor Green. Right.
Yeah. So Brian, so Brian Orosen tried to do a get you moment with Zelensky, because remember I
Right.
told you at the beginning of the show that part of what Putin and Trump are trying to do, and part of what that our pre-conversation with Zelensky was, that if there's whatever ceasefire or peace happens, that Zelensky has to admit to do a fair election. He has to do an election. So Brian asked him that question. He goes, President Zelensky, why, are you going to do an election, in your country? And Zelensky goes in there and says, yeah, once we stop the war, we can't have an election during a war. And Trump stops him on that moment and says, interesting. So what you're saying to me, he goes, that if for in 3.5 years, if there was a war happening here, we wouldn't have to hold elections. And everybody started laughing. And Zelensky turned around and said, he goes, wouldn't you want that to be happening? He's telling
Hmm.
you what step four is. Step four
Right.
is martial law. Step four is that all of a sudden, and it's not gonna. And we're not talking about 2028, folks. We're talking about 2026, because if
Hmm.
he understands that if 2026, which he understands with the polls, with everything that's done, what's going on, he's gonna get massacred. And if he loses control to the House and possibly the Senate, he understands that he will be spending
Impeached
time
and
in
removed.
exactly. He
Right.
understands that there's and from there on it goes criminal and all kinds. He understands,
Oh
and it's
yeah.
not him, it's all of them. So because of that, this is where the red line in the sand is being drawn, and that's why he's trying to do. It's not, he's not on the ballot. Just think about it. It's not his election, but he's involved in the gerrymandering and the redistricting.
His future, his entire family's
Absolutely.
fortune is on the line.
100%, because everything changes if they lose,
Yeah.
the if we take back the House and possibly the Senate with that.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying to you. So he's already saying the quiet thing out loud. He's telling it that it's just that, and that's why I scream aloud, because very few people, and I understand, don't see it, because unless you know him, a person, it's hard to see those little telltales. You have to really know a person too. Like, I know him very well, so when I watch TV and I see him make certain smirk or make a comment, I know where he's coming from. But most people don't understand that. They think he's the president of the United States, so they judge him and think, that he means this or he doesn't really mean this. Or most people make excuses for him, saying, "Oh, he says it." But if you take a look, even the fact, I'll give you another interesting fact that people
Sure.
don't realize, that the setup's coming. So everybody says he's not going to run in 2028. He said to you already he's not planning on. He's already old, right? But let's think about, in the meantime, every single day we have little different. We have Steve Bannon in the beginning walk around saying we have nobody better. He has to go. He wasn't even on Gavin Newsom's what's it called, saying that Trump is going to, they're going to support him in 2028. You have JD Vance, putting on hats 2028 and putting on social media. You have Trump coming out saying his most famous words that I know for a fact he wants them, that people told him, that people want him to, that people want him to become president 2028. You've heard all of those. And then sometimes he comes out and says, no, I'm not going to run. JD Vance, he distracts and says, we'll see who it is. But look what's happening behind the scenes. The past couple of visits, you've seen leaders that have been in, like, from Azerbaijan and Armenia.
Yeah.
Just as recently as yesterday, when you had all the world leaders there, you've seen pictures leak, where the picture leak is him taking them through the White House souvenir shop. And in the White House souvenir shop, and you might folks think this is crazy, but I'm telling you, these little things, that I'm giving you such things that are so important that you're gonna thank me for later.
Yeah.
That when he walked all these leaders through the souvenir shop, the one thing he stopped them was to give them a hat where it said Trump 2028.
Right.
And those conversation started where Trump to these leaders started explaining how majority of America and how people are telling him that they want him to run and be 2028. This is all part of the psychological influence into everybody where they're going through all the pieces to when, if just like by putting the National Guard and leaving them in one. Just think about this. If we had an emergency in Washington, D.C., okay, the National Guard came in, they did what they did. Why aren't they leaving? Why is the National Guard still in Washington, D.C.? It's part
Sure.
of normalization. It's part of when you walk down the
Right.
streets and they're there, you're thinking, okay, they've been there. It's done. It's like, when COVID first hit and nobody could leave, we were scared to leave the street. Nobody would walk out the house. Then all of a sudden, 6 months later, people were walking out the house and like,
Yep.
it is what it is. It's part of normalization. This is what he's doing for the next 3 years. You're going to constantly see these little bits of 2028 and this and that. But to get there, it all begins at 2026. And that's why I say to everybody, I mean, Ukraine extremely important. Everything in the world that's happening extremely important. Tariffs are extremely important. Our constitutional rights are extremely important. I don't know what to tell you what's more important, what's not, but I could tell you this from somebody that's been deep inside this circle and knows
Hmm.
what their overall plan is. And I think the most important thing right now is to be able to get back certain rights because right now we have nothing. We have no way of. I know when people sit there and say, "Love, how can we stop him? What can we do?" Right now, we can't because he controls all the judicial branches. He's
Yep.
taking it over with the executive power of the executive pen. But the most important thing, he has loyalists in the DOJ and in the FBI that we've never seen before that are openly so loyal that he has his own. It's his own mafia.
Yeah, I agree with you on this. Let me I'm forever the silver lining optimist or whatever, and I also think that optimism is the actual primary state of humanity. Because if you got up this morning and you bothered to wash and feed yourself, you are optimistic that you will live the
Absolutely.
day long enough to shit it out and need a shower tomorrow, or meet someone and not stinking will be worthwhile because you're going to meet somebody you wouldn't want to stink in front of. And I think that's an act of optimism, every single step of it. And so, by talking about these things, we are by nature optimistic about the fact that we can solve these things. And it does make the difference with what's going on in Russia, or even say China, where I've spent a good amount of time. There are a lot of things that I see in parallel to how China treats its people and how China, Xi Jinping is retaining power that Putin does too. But I also think that there is gravity always still exists. And in a couple of areas, Trump is fighting gravity. One, physically. Obviously, his waddling down the red carpet was not lost on everybody. They couldn't even spin at his swagger.
Yeah, he's
He's a
not healthy.
mess. He's not
He's not
healthy.
healthy.
And
No.
so maybe they're doing Trump 2028. He thinks it's about him, and the other people around him actually go, well, we kind of mean Don Jr. because we'd like a monarch anyway. You know what I mean? Like in their
No, no,
mind. I'm
no,
not
no,
saying it's
no,
really going to
no,
happen.
no, no. Nobody wants him on. I'm going to tell you right away. Nobody wants him on. No, Don Jr. has. I have more of a chance of being president in the
Right.
Republic than
I
Don
agree.
Jr.
I
Don
agree.
Jr. It's not Eric. Don Jr. These little idiots are scared that they don't go to prison. That's
Yes.
and Trump is not. He doesn't care about staying in power in 2028. Trump
Right.
concern is to solidify whatever that power is going to be that will make sure that he and his family and his legacy he's building that will stay there. They won't
Yes.
because he understands two
That
things are
they'll be
going
the
to
kiss the
happen.
ring crowd. What I'm
Correct.
what I'm what
Right.
I'm ultimately saying is that it does whether he thinks that Trump 2028 hat is real or not is sort of immaterial because he's not capable. He's on such a hard fade, and it has become even more stark over this time. And like you said, Putin is ill. Like I think you're absolutely right that was a double. I think at a certain point, if you were Vladimir Putin, you wouldn't fly in an airplane anywhere. He's got that like whatever that super train that he takes inside the country. So he doesn't even. I mean, Prigozhin should be a lesson to everybody, right?
Well,
Um,
I mean, but hell, I mean, if you've ever, I just give everybody a perfect little touch just for yourself. Take any Putin video from the past, anyone, and
Yeah.
compare it to that with anyone. I mean, I'm saying to you, the take a video even when Putin doesn't smile. He doesn't even the only videos of Putin ever you catch him smiling is maybe when he's playing hockey, and even then he's like very seriously smiling, or if he's
Right.
on the horse, and most of those are like picture taken. Putin, did you see how he ran up? I mean, when I was sitting with my wife and I was saying to her, I said, "Babe, that's not Putin." I mean, I've been 40
Yeah.
years watching. I mean, the guy walked down the red carpet like, "Oh, high
Yeah.
five!" Like, hey.
Yeah.
And then when the media started, when he went like,
Yeah.
and first of all, Putin, he's a soldier. Watch how he walks. I mean, these are
Hmm.
little tall tales. I mean, when you anywhere, he walk. I mean, here he was like he had a pep in the step, like he
Yeah.
was
Right.
like, and then when he was reading, did you see the press conference? He was fumbling those notes like, oh, Putin talks like. Take a look, and I'll give you a perfect example.
Yeah.
Literally, the
It's all
next day,
side eye all the time. Like
the
Putin's
next
whole thing is like, "I'll do this,
yeah,
this."
literally the
Yeah.
next day, he Putin they spoke to. Now again, I don't think that was the real Putin either, probably, because I'm from
Right.
what I'm hearing, he's in a bunker, but they have different kind. This I tell you honestly, and I shit you not, that whatever Putin came to America, I don't think he's around anymore, because that's how bad he played the role, because it's not just us talking about that it wasn't Putin. I mean, the guy was overexcited. You could tell that
Yes.
he was in that mode.
I'm the new Putin. The old Putin is
Like
dead.
like
Long live the new Putin. Right.
right, like that red carpet, like he was, like he felt like you could tell that he was overtaken by the moment. And that's, and the other thing is, remember, Putin doesn't trust nobody. Putin is right now a wanted war criminal.
Right.
You think he's going to take a chance of all of a sudden coming to the United States or somewhere, trapped into it?
Yeah.
And the other thing is, like I said, Putin, after
I.
a lot of people don't know, especially after COVID, had a very, because he locked
Oh
himself in
yeah.
a bunker. And for years, nobody, I mean, not family, nobody, I mean, the process, and that's where the body double expanded. Because the Soviet regime, the KGB, all of these communist regimes like North Korea, they all have body doubles. It's part of. I mean, you speak to any intelligence officer.
Yeah.
This is fact. It's not that we're trying to give you. It's
Yeah.
part of, because their security. It's part
Well,
of
we
their own
remember. Everybody
security.
remembers the Saddam Hussein doubles like
Yeah,
crazy. They're just any dude who vaguely was the same height they could slap a mustache on was waving from a car as he drove through town. The
yeah.
problem Trump has is that they can't find a like an elderly smoker woman in her late 80s that will play him. Philip Ittner is waiting in the wings, and if
You want
I
to bring
know,
him
I
in?
don't know
I
what
got
your
I
time
got
is.
to run a little bit, but I'll still over. I'd love to say hi to Philip
Yeah,
if you
I'd love
want.
to
We could
say
go.
have you
Yeah,
say
there
hi
he
to
is.
Phil.
Hey, Lev,
There he
hey,
is.
buddy.
Phil,
To
what's
see
up,
you,
my
man.
brother? Slavo, come
Hold
in,
on, I'll
my
get over
brother.
here. You guys can be close to each other.
Slava. Slava, buddy.
Yeah, well, it was been a while. Yeah.
Hello from Krishatik.
How are you? How are you doing over there? I know things
We're not
haven't.
allowed to ask him, Lev. We're not allowed to ask him how he is. That's our new rule.
I mean,
We've had for a while because he's
it
in
is what it
Kyiv.
is.
So
It is what
No,
it is.
I know. I'm saying to you with the new attacks. I know because my
yeah.
cousin's in Kiev also. He's actually right now. We're doing a trip. He's going to Dnipropetrovsk area and delivering humanitarian aid. It's the hardest hit area, by the way. I know. For those of you that can help, we have a GoFundMe set up for him. If you, Hal,
We
if you
put
put
that
that
on
up,
screen
you
before.
put
Yeah,
that.
and we
Oh,
will do it
perfect.
again. Yeah.
I appreciate
Let me
anybody
grab it
there
and I'll put
because
it up while you guys are talking.
because the Ukrainian
those
people
guys have it bad.
yeah, they have it
Those
very
guys-
bad, especially where he's going. It's the hottest
Dnipro,
there. Yeah,
yeah.
he just came back.
Dnipro,
He came back from Kharkiv. We just did Odessa. He did Kharkiv, and you know where
Yeah.
we're bringing them, Philip. You know how everybody, because it's also important for you to understand. I mean, Alex has been doing this since the first day of the war. Not the war, but the invasion, because the war started in 2014, but the second wave invasion started in February of 2022. And there's a lot of support that needs food, help, clothes. We talk about our stuff. The one thing that gets overlooked, Alex always told me, and this is what we're concentrating now, is he goes hygiene. He goes, Lev, he goes, you don't understand. These soldiers on the front line, they don't take a shower for a month. these ID people that are displaced, the families that are displaced, they have no water, they have no, and people don't. It's a thing that we take for granted every day to be able to wash our hands, take a shower. He goes, if
Hmm.
you don't do that for a month, you know the diseases, the complications, the problems that start happening that because of that, not only to soldiers but people, and it's now in hospitals because these hospitals on the front line can't wash the patients, can't do it. So what we're
Hmm.
doing, Philip, just so you know, and if you want to get together with Alex, and what
I'd
we're
love
doing
that.
is we're delivering hygiene packages all over the front right now during the summer, while it's because you know how hot it is right now. It's over 100
Mm.
degrees, and it's until,
Hmm.
because I know they're getting ready for the winter invasion, which will switch over. But right now, that's one of the things where hygiene is extremely important. So for those of you that can, we're almost there. We got another 10% left to finish off the fundraiser. So whatever you guys could help, it would be greatly appreciated for the people of Ukraine, because right now Donald Trump basically is walking away, and while they're playing these theatrics, and we're going to be waiting for supposed talks, meetings, bilateral, all of these, promises. The bombardment's happening. Philip will tell you when I leave here,
Yeah.
it's really bad. It's happening every day. People are dying. Real people are dying. Kids, that have been stolen have not been returned, and
Hmm.
nothing has changed. If anything, it's gotten
No.
a lot
They're
worse.
they're hunting they're hunting human beings down with drones, civilians in Kherson.
Yeah.
We have it's horrific what they're doing.
Yeah, I put
Yeah.
it on my Substack, Philip. What they're actually doing, what Philip just said to you, just so you guys understand, is when the alarms hit, the people for safety run into the metro area, and what the Russians started doing, they started taking the drones and connecting it to the phones, and so as people were running, they started hitting the drones into the entrances of the
Yeah.
subway where people are going. I mean, that's how sick. That's what you gotta understand. It's not a war where they're trying to go after military bases. When Ukraine strikes their military bases. Russia, every day, if you read my Substack, every single day they're attacking people,
Yeah.
hospitals, buildings, children's care facilities, elderly. I mean, they're not attacking military facilities. It's a war of two different wars.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Hey, if you want to get me in touch with Alex, if there's anything I can do, Lev, all you need to
Yeah, I
do
know.
is
I
just reach out.
definitely, because
I'd be happy to do anything at all.
Jason Smart also. He's a
Sure.
reporter. Jason's down there also in Kiev right now. I was actually supposed to be on his, but I told him I'm doing Hal today, so
Yeah.
we're gonna do
Jason's
the
not going anywhere.
Yeah, he's not
He'll
going
be
anywhere.
here.
Yeah, but I'm going to get you in
Right.
touch with Alex definitely, because
Yeah.
listen, this is not ending anytime soon, as we could see what's
Sadly.
happening, and we need to right now. Everybody needs to stand with Ukraine stronger and louder
Hmm.
than ever, because Ukraine is on the front line of what's happening. Because if
Hmm.
Putin gets away, God forbid, that not only from the humanitarian standpoint of all those people that our lives are being destroyed, but trust me when I tell you, it will come to the shores of the United States eventually,
Yeah.
because the game is totally bigger. And right now, what Hal was saying, and Phil,
Yeah.
if you could talk about it a little bit, is it's not Putin. We keep saying Putin. This is a authoritarian machine, the KGB, that's been there for over 100 years, that have been
Hmm.
dreaming of a position to have a useful idiot like Trump, that is the head of the most powerful country in the world, that is right now literally playing into their hand and being their machine to do whatever they want. And these are
Yeah.
only the first steps, and that's why we're warning you. And so that's why when I say right now the most important thing is 2026, because folks, we have this year. If we could get our Congress back and our Senate back, we will be able to save Ukraine. We will be able to
Hmm.
save it, because the second we get Trump out of office, all of this stops. All of
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
people back, everything goes back to a different world, starts coming back to normality. So that's what I say. So anyway, Hal, Phil, thank you
Yeah.
for having me, brother. You
Yeah.
guys do some incredible work. Independent journalism is so important, and that's why everybody out there, make sure you subscribe, you contribute to people like Hal, to people.
I see you're doing a regular show with my good pal Malcolm.
Malcolm's my brother,
Um,
of course. Yeah, we
he
do. Me and
we
Malcolm.
yeah.
When it comes to
I I have his body armor sitting in my living room in a bag. He left it here with me. He left a car with me.
Talk
for
about
like
hygiene for
8
Ukraine,
months.
right?
Malcolm is a great guy. So I'm
Malcolm
glad
is
to
a
see you.
true
Yeah.
fighter,
and
true
Mike Cohen
supporter.
yeah. Hey,
Yeah.
if Cohen ever wants to talk Ukraine, I know it's a little bit out of his wheelhouse, but I'll be happy to talk to him about it. I don't know Michael. I know Malcolm very well. Malcolm and I are good pals.
Why don't you have my number, right, Phil? You have my DM. Send me or make sure, or Hal, get him if you could.
Yeah, we'll
connect me.
coordinate everybody so you guys can contact each other.
And we'll
That'd be great.
definitely, because I'd love to get you on with me, you and Alex on there, because we have our show Voice from Ukraine, where Malcolm. So I think there's we definitely we'll do some stuff together. Absolutely,
100%.
And I'd love to do a roundtable with all you guys on this particular topic.
We should do that. Yeah, we should do a roundtable. That's a good. Yeah,
sure.
Thanks to Phil, I've been able to cover Ukraine twice a week since basically the beginning of the war. Phil came on my show initially is in the kind of chat about it, because I think I was one of the few channels that was talking about it on the regular. I talk about it on my radio show every Saturday. We dedicate an hour of the 2-hour show to it, because it's that important and it's indicative of Trump's entire thing. Also, I just made a little QR code up here. If people want to take a picture with their phone or use that will take you to the site.
God bless you. God bless you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and they can donate to help the hygiene program in Dnipro. The link is right there, but it's way easier if you just take a picture of that with your phone. It will direct you to it. Those of you that are watching on your phones later or whatever, the link is in the chat as well.
Thank you so much. God bless you guys. From me, from the people of Ukraine, and I'm gonna let you do the show. I gotta cover some Trump stuff here that'll be breaking soon. But God bless every one of you, all the subscribers, followers there, and Slava Ukraini, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much. Have a great one, and we'll link your Substack as well. Cheers.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. Cheers. Take care.
There you go. Excellent. That was awesome. And so are you. Hi, Phil.
Hi.
How you doing?
Generally okay. All things considered. Love's right. Almost immediately after the meeting in Alaska, we started getting more attacks, kind of stuff. Our air defense in the capital is holding out, but he's right to talk about the other cities, the river cities that run up and down the Dnipro. There's the Zaporizhia, Dnipropetrovsk, and then Kherson down at the bottom there, and then Kharkiv up in the east, in the northeast. All of them have just been getting a shellacking.
Yeah.
So this peace plan isn't going to go anywhere.
No,
I'm sadly, I'm really, really pessimistic about it. I was happy to see the European presence in Washington. I thought that was a really good show of force, support. I'm hoping. They did do in public a lot of the kind of kissing of the ring and the kind of we're all in this together sort of stuff.
Right.
But I'm hoping behind closed doors they were like, look, you don't have to send weapons. We will buy the weapons. We will take custody of them, and then we will pass them along to the Ukrainians. I kind of think that's the way this is going to go. There is not going to be a trilat. There's no bloody way there's going to be a trilat. Putin will never, ever recognize Zelensky unless he's absolutely forced to. And frankly, I think if it gets to a place where he would be forced into a room with Zelensky, it would mean that Russia's position is so bad that the Russians would probably chuck him out a window before any kind of trilat actually happens. So this concept of Trump's that there's going to be a trilat between Zelensky, Putin, and Trump is hogwash. It's not going to happen.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
I'd be stunned. I'd be really stunned. I hope I'm wrong. That would be great. But I don't think so.
Again, it's kind of like the situation with the BBB. The way the Republicans got the big BS bill, which, by the way, the Republicans are trying to rebrand now because it's so unpopular, even with their own folks, is that they are legislatively clawing back some of the problems with it under dead of night so that they can convince people that, see, it wasn't as damaging. Everybody said it was going to be damaging. Well, you took out the parts that would be damaging in the short term and punted the damage to the long term so that you could say that because you knew it would be damaging, but you voted for the whole thing anyway. So you could say, we voted for Trump's agenda and it's perfect. And so they're doing all the spackling at night. There's a similar kind of situation with Trump and what he's promising in terms of what's going to happen with Ukraine or Russia or peace process or whatever, is that he'll come out with these kind of broad swath, I just want to stop the killing nonsense. And then his people are responsible for sort of like spackling the holes behind the scenes. Not that different from most politicians, which Trump always likes to say he was an outsider, not really a politician. It's the same shit we see, only dumber. And in the case of Putin, there are just some gaping holes you can't spackle shut. There is no point that if he, in the big beautiful bill, the thing they were doing was if they gained 10 votes, they'd lose 20. So they just had to basically all bite the bullet. In the case of Putin, if he gains some stuff, he loses some stuff at the same time. He's not willing to lose anything. And even the simple stuff like recognizing Ukraine as a country, recognizing Zelensky as a president, if he can't do that, then he's not going to stop till he's taken the rest of the country. That's the point. That because if your intention is to stop with the land you got and create a buffer zone, whatever Finland border, we'll put a fucking pin in that later. If he thinks he needs a border with NATO, and that's why he did it, because he thought NATO was going to come into Ukraine. Now Finland's completely in, so what the fuck is that? Was he going to invade Finland 60 miles inside there? It's just stupid. Like the argument just falls apart all the time. But ultimately, he has to recognize Zelensky and the country, and he won't because he wants it.
No. Well, yeah, and he still thinks he can get it. He's got to eke out some sort of thing that he can claim as it having been worth it. That it was worth the sacrifice. Jesus. And again, that means his priority, his primary goal, his ultimate goal, has to include taking Odessa and Kiev, and it ain't going to happen. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
So he's got to find some other milestone that he can get to, and then proclaim that it was worth it, and there is some sort of victory and all the rest of it. He might keep trying to go towards Zaporizhia. He might be, trying to take Kherson so that he can be positioned on the river. And then in 2, 3, 5, whatever, 10 years, they can come back, and all they have to do is hop onto the other side of the river. And then, they think that they can, steam through. And that's also not true. But he might be able to get to a place in this phase of the war where he could sell it to his people that it was worth it. I don't think the Russian people are going to I think when the shooting stops, whatever happens, they're going to be pissed off because they know very well that this has been a disastrous war. This is possibly one of the worst defeats in Russian military history. I mean, it's right up there with the Russo-Japanese War or the catastrophe in the First World War when Tsar Nicholas took control of the armed forces. I would say it's even worse because I think Ukraine is fundamental to the sense of empire that they feel in Moscow and throughout Russia. And if they don't have Ukraine, they don't have empire. And so who are we? Sort of thing. They're going to go through it. And you're the one, you, Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin, are the one who is sitting on the throne in the Kremlin when we lost our most important colony. And I think and he's got to know it. Of course he knows it. So he's in no mood to negotiate for a peace. So, and again, it just also shows the ignorance of Donald Trump. It's like, this whole thing when he he had his interview with Hannity, and he did the whole thing about like, and then Vladimir told me you absolutely would have won the election, and this war would never have started if you had been president. I never would have, this war would never have started if you were president. it's all bull. It's what it didn't amaze me at all. It didn't shock me at all. But if a real journalist had been sitting across from him during that interview, the immediate question that would have popped into my mind, at least, is, and why do you think he was telling you that, sir?
Right.
Why? It's okay. Even if he did say it, which I don't believe he did, or his double or whatever, I don't care. Said to Donald, oh, you would have won, or oh, I never would have started the war. That the question isn't how do I respond to that statement. The question should be, why are you telling me this? Why are you saying this to me?
Sure.
What are you trying to elicit from me? But he's too fucking obtuse. He doesn't understand that this is manipulation. He's being manipulated because he's being told what he wants to hear. And so he turns around to Hannity and says, Putin confirmed it. He never would have started this war if I had been president instead of Biden.
Right.
Which is a load of crap. Of course it's a load of crap. This is a war that's been going on. It's funny, Lev pointed out this war has been going on since 2014 with the invasion of Crimea and Donetsk and Luhansk after the Maidan uprising. But you could even make the point that this has been going on for over a century.
Sure.
There have been at least in the last 100 years, 3 attempts by Ukraine to fight a war of independence. They fought a war of independence from 1919 to 1921 that they lost because Moscow had a turncoat general who locked all the weapons up and wouldn't let the army fight. And then they fought, people forget that the Ukrainian partisan army, the UPA, which is controversial because they did end up, some of them, fighting alongside the Germans, so that's where all this kind of fascism stuff comes from, and it's other words going into. But regardless, people forget that the UPA kept fighting after the end of the Second World War, the quote unquote end of the Second World War, after the major fighting had ended. I think they kept fighting until like 1953. They were fighting a partisan army against the Soviet Union, against the Soviet army, guerrilla warfare kind of stuff. The Ukrainians have wanted their independence for a very, very, very long time. And and so, when Maidan happened, and I was another thing that happened on the show, on the behemoth show that I did. I was speaking, I think it was with Kira Rudik. It might have been with operator Starsky. But I think it was with Kira Rudik. Or maybe both. Kira Rudik is a member of parliament. And I said to her, I was on Maidan in 2014. And I think there was a irreversible thing that happened on Maidan, in that they said, we are no longer a colony. We will not be colonized by the Poles, or the Turks, or certainly not the Russians. We're not going to be. And so, and I've made this point before, I'll make it again, is that Western leaders also have to acknowledge that this is a sovereign state and no longer colonized, that the mentality of being a colonized country has been erased. They've crossed the Rubicon. They cannot go back. They will never be a colony again. And the sooner, the West, and of course, Trump acting this way with this kind of like, I'm going to strong arm Zelensky into sitting down with Putin, is the exact opposite way to deal not only with Zelensky, but with the entire country of Ukraine, because the Ukrainians will stand with Zelensky. There are people who don't like him here. It's a democracy. There's, look, it is what it is. There are people who don't like him, but who support him because in a time of war, But if Trump tries to strong arm Ukraine by way of strong arming Zelensky, the Ukrainian people, by and large, I think, are going to back him.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it's the George Bush effect. Like tons of us,
yeah,
thought George Bush was illegitimately elected. He technically lost Florida, so he shouldn't have been president in the first place. And he was an idiot and an asshole, and Cheney was a monster. But a good portion of the American people voted for him again because you can't change a horse midstream when you're in the middle of a war. And if you do, the terrorists win and all that. There's enough of those kind of folks that will fall in even behind somebody who's is as terrible as Bush was, much less the hard work that Zelensky is clearly doing. And the only way I think I could see them actually replacing him is with somebody who's a little like tougher about it than him. You know what I mean? Like that goes further. Like fuck this, get out. Yeah. Like it isn't playing as nice with once America has kind of stepped out of the way and said we're not going to help. On the level we were when Biden was president, I think there's a belief amongst a bunch of Ukrainians that were like, either you tell them they got to get on board, or we're just going to call them out as being on the side of Putin or what have you. But fuck them. We'll keep fighting. We're not going to give up our land just because we don't have Big Brother anymore. And the Europeans would have been falling inside. You could argue that the entirety of Trump's, quote, win with NATO, where they're spending more money on their military, they're putting that in there, or that they're buying military stuff, is stuff that's going to Ukraine and to counter the threat that is Russian expansion. Because along with, what they've been, what Putin said about Ukraine this entire time, that it's not a real country, they don't have a real language, that it's part of Russia already, that the brotherhood and the family and the Ruski Mir, blah, blah, blah. But beyond that, Solovyev, Simonyan, Trump or Putin himself, other people effectively threatening European capitals with obliteration for just helping, not troops, not invading fucking Russia, not, putting troops in the Donbass and saying, sorry, this is Ukraine, we're going to defend it on their behalf. No, not that. Like, just for giving weapons to the Ukrainians to do the fighting themselves. You've got what's the Russian equivalent of Sean Hannity saying we got to nuke Berlin and London and show these people who's boss.
Yeah, which is an empty threat.
Yeah.
I mean, they would have to have a full scale nuclear exchange.
Yeah,
it's because if you did that. And did that.
But the threat is there to manipulate the public.
The threat is there to scare the crap out of people.
The Tucker Candace Owens crowd who will go like, "Oh dear God, we're on the edge of nuclear war." Like, no, we're fucking not. You absolute wuss. They're using your fear of it to keep you from helping somebody. It is, and you're in a situation like I keep, they always talk about kitchen table issues, and it drives me crazy because there's very little that a country's entire budget has to do with how people allocate money month to month in their own household or pay their mortgage. It's like so lame. But if you take it to a person issue, if somebody comes into your house and they've got a gun and you're the man, whatever, you're the person, you're the adult in the room, and they go, look, just let me tie this guy up and I promise I won't hurt anybody else. Like maybe in 1940, you'd go, all right, it's a gentleman's agreement, right? Now you're like, okay, this is bullshit. I'm going to have to rush this dude, and you guys are going to have to bug out through the windows because obviously this is not just, an innocent burglary where they mistook us for being home. The lights were on. We were walking around. They're going to kill us all. And I think there's an element of the Europeans going, look, you can wave that fucking gun around all you want, but the only way it gets, it kills everybody here is if one of us, who can stop you doesn't.
Mm-hmm. Well, and there's a couple of there's a whole bunch of stuff about that. I mean, also, look, if Trump does do that and he walks away and goes, well, I tried, I couldn't do it, so I'm washing my hands of this thing and I'm walking away.
Right.
Then we're going to see the fighting won't stop. We will just see more and more dead people. But the Ukrainians will not stop fighting. There will be, there's going to be video everywhere of, look at what happens following the I mean, he'll be the Chamberlain of our time, sort of thing. You know, I mean, it will be.
I would argue
seen
he
as a
already
betrayal.
is, but yes.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say the same thing, but I don't think Americans are going to sit well with that. I know the Europeans are not. Yes, the Europeans are spending more money, and it's going to be harder for, they like their social systems. They like their,
Mhm.
they've been spending money on socialized programs.
Sure.
And they're going to have to tighten their belt, but I think it's going to be really, it's easier to explain to a European audience as well, the threat, because it's going to be right on their doorstep. And they are waking up. I do think they are I mean, look at, Merz in Germany,
Yep.
all the Scandinavian countries, Poland, the Baltics, they know this is real. And I've made the point before, and I'll make it again, is that what you also have to understand is that if Russia is successful in Ukraine, and we can figure out what that definition is one way or the other, but one of the terms of success for Russia in Ukraine is that they get a pro-Russian government in Kiev. It's going to be. I don't think that's possible. I don't think it's within their capacity to do it. But hypothetically, that is their strategic goal. What that means, though, is that if they find success in Ukraine, they don't have to roll tanks into Poland or roll tanks into, through Belarus and up into the Baltics. Just the fact that they will be poised there and having dominion of Ukraine, and then, of course, the effort will be made to make Ukraine, the Ukrainians there will be Ukrainians who will, betray the rest of the country and get friendly with Moscow. And then that means you've got this armed force right on the border with Europe. And that means they can mess with elections, they can mess with markets, they can mess with, because the sheer threat.
I would argue they're going to anyways.
They're probably going to anyways.
Right.
But they're always going to, unless they're in a state of free fall themselves, because they have chaos within their own country, because things are going to get kooky if and when they lose. But regardless, let's say that they find some sort of way to a success in Ukraine.
Yeah.
They will do it because it's in their nature to meddle with elections and markets and civil society and all the rest of it. But if they're poised on the border with Poland, it's going to be 10, 20 times worse. They'll be able to, there will be pro-Moscow political parties in France, in Italy, in, take your pick, all throughout the European Union. And the European Union is outside of our neighbors, our largest trading partner. So it's the largest trading bloc. So again, another reason why this will affect Americans, because it will be harder for us to sell stuff to Europe, and it will be harder for Europe to sell stuff to America.
Right.
Our economic ties will just plummet. So, this has always frustrated me about America, and like our own kind of myopic American, we've got these enormous oceans between us and the rest of the world. So, we're good. We're good. We won't, we can't be affected. No, not in the 21st century. So, yeah, I mean, it's in our interest to support Ukraine, but we have an idiot in the Oval. So, and I think somebody who's compromised. I think.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. Okay, so if I may, one of the things I've been trying to point out, and there's a lot of reason to, how much impact this has day by day, or even during the hours of the day, how much like Trump's brain farting, or I would argue sharding at this point, that he's doing, that there's windows where he's sort of legislatively dangerous, where he's still aware enough. He's having his lucid moments during his pocket of time, but early morning and into the evening, he's sundowning clearly. He's yawning and falling asleep at his own meetings. They have to keep him up earlier. Again, everything he said about Joe Biden is absolutely true of Donald Trump right now. His brain is turning to tapioca. And so depending on the time of the day, who has access to him changes how they, the policy of the United States. Because if Putin calls him at night when he's soup-brained, then he could make, a terrible decision in that regard, right? Mm-hmm. Just based on, oh, really? Like, because he's forgotten the rest of the world. Like he's got there's no anchor to any of the decisions he's making. But if it's in the middle of the day, he might be more spry and therefore more either paranoid or ego-driven, or still think he's got a shot at being king of the world or getting the Nobel or whatever. That seems to be the window. And the European leaders, and I would argue probably Trump's people, when they chose the timing for the meeting in Alaska, know this. They know that's the window. That's why we're flying him to Alaska. This is the window he's going to be awake and aware. And if we get outside of that, we're kind of fucked. And I think they missed the window because they didn't do the math. And I think he was maybe
they didn't give enough milligrams of whatever it is they.
Well, he had plenty in the meeting in Europe because he was salivating all over the place. He was doing the Adderall Carol Channing. Yes. Whenever you get when somebody's gacked up on Adderall, especially when they're old, if you're on stimulants or whatever, they start salivating a lot to make up for it. It's a speed thing. And yeah, a bunch of Diet Cokes mixed with that. He starts doing this business all the time. And he it's gross, but it's true. It's a true side effect of Adderall. The reason I know this is because when there was word that Trump was on it, I think Noel Kassler also talked about how much he were snorting it even or whatever. They were trying to take it over. And I was like, okay, remember the guy who was running the crypto scheme and had his little weird sex cult in Cyprus or wherever the fuck he was parked and all that. He went to jail, the curly-headed young guy. Anyways, he was gacked out on anti-epilepsy meds, and he was using these things as nootropics. And one of the side effects was it kicked your libido through the fucking roof, and it makes your impulse control complete shit. Okay. Well, I was like, I wonder what the impact of Adderall when you don't need it. And again, that's the key here. Adderall for people who need it, all it does is take their scope of view of the world and go to here, right? Help them focus. If you're already normal and you're here, it makes you myopic, and that's what I would call Adderall or Ritalin racists. It makes you racist because you exclude anything that doesn't fit your bias because you can only see this narrow thing. It's like horse blinders. And I think that's where Trump used to get. Now he very well may be they just may need it to actually have him focus. But that and 6 Diet Cokes, what's that going to do to your fucking brain? Well, first of all, it's going to make you jump from thought to thought and not have a grip on where you are. and only stuff that is like muscle memory kind of stuff is going to jump forward. It's why he'll start why he does the whole bullshit 2020 it was rigged. Like he'll go there, or he'll start talking about 2016 because it's so entrenched in the synapses are well worn. It's a well trodden road, right? A well worn path. And then the same thing goes to the physical ones, which is numbness in your extremities, over salivation. You get tongue tied and I don't even know if it's tongue swelling in some cases. But in the case of Trump, it's super clear that they are okay, he's going to crash in 45 minutes. So blaze him a rail before he goes into this European meeting. And if we can't clear the fucking room, and that's why he's we're going to leave here and we're going to go to someplace else for a little bit. And then we're going to go to the Oval and have another meeting. That's why they're doing it, because he's got to leave that meeting and blaze another fucking rail and effectively go into that's what the pacing is for. I'm serious. Otherwise, why the fuck would you move? Or why would you just have it in the other room the whole fucking time? It's so stupid. It's so on the nose. Anyway, so he's doing this whole thing during the beginning of that meeting and the second one in the Oval, Jesus Christ, I thought he was going to hock a loogie on the desk. You know, like, really, probably the only thing that would, yes, they're pit stops. Can't Stop Lion says they're pit stops. It's exactly right. They wash his pits and go. That's where like Stephen Chung and Walt Nauta have to hose down his diaper. That might be a part of this as well, because he's got to go through his little NASCAR diaper change multiple times, especially if he has to sit in these meetings and he can't just get up and walk out whenever the fuck he goes, oops, you know, he pulls a, like the father on the clumps, damn, I just shit my pants. You got to wash them yourself, you dirty bastards, right? He can't just get like, yeah, that's why he can't get up and leave.
Imagine you're Keir Starmer, you're sitting next
and you're downwind.
And you're downwind. Oh, just so bad. So bad. It's look.
And so this idea that he's going to run in 2028 is not happening. I'm just saying that like they're concerned in the White House, and I know this for a fact. They're concerned he won't make it to the midterms.
Yeah. Or he's going to do something in public. That's going to be
right. Whatever that means.
Whatever.
Either he keels over,
collapses
or he
in the right. He
says
the
actual N-word when he's saying nuclear, and he's calling it the N-word, and then he accidentally slips and goes, most people think I mean man, like, and then like that's what they're afraid he's going to do for real.
Yeah.
And so
I think it's entirely right. I think he may not make it until the mid.
So the other question is, this brings us back to Ukraine and Russia. Are Ukraine and are both Putin or what's left of him, or his series of body doubles who are running the country, or the clones? I mean, this is like a fucking Bond villain that's running the country. Is Ukraine and Russia now, instead of waiting each other out, who can fight and stay in the fight the longest? Are both of them just trying to outlive Trump? Almost. Yeah. Like,
it's an interesting point, yeah.
Him reach the end of his runway with this whole topic and just give up and fucking walk away, and he's selling it. As long as in his mind he's just selling munitions and shit to Europe because they're buying and it's a deal. Trump, Putin's fucked in that case anyways. So if he just walks away and does that, that's bad enough. But if he full on says, okay, I'm being tapped along by Putin, and we're going to help Ukraine with sanctions, and we're going to double down and all that kind of stuff. And then and then, right, he's the last thing he says, or writes in the will before he keels over or fucks up. That's the rule now, right? Until, I guess, President Vance and he rewrites it, in which case, does he have the power to do that? Like,
yeah, I mean, the only thing that I want Trump out of there. I want Trump behind bars, but the only thing that gives me pause is the fact that Vance will be even worse when it comes to Ukraine. Trump, an ignorant Trump, and a Trump who's only kind of half-assing it when it comes to dealing with what's happening here is one thing. But Vance is openly anti-Ukrainian. I mean, like, repeatedly says, I don't want to have anything to do with it. We shouldn't have anything. It's, this corrupt country, and I won't. He had a chance. I mean, to meet with Zelensky back when he was a senator, when he was at the Munich security conference, and he turned it down. This is a long-standing thing with him. So, I mean, yeah, I'd love to see Trump out of office, but I'd like to see Vance out of office as well.
Well, here's the thing:
take them both at the same time.
I know. And I'll go back and forth with people about this forever. But the idea that like Vance will be worse in terms of the just kind of abstract power of the presidency, writing executive orders, you may have a point, but it won't change what they can get through the House and the Senate. And without Trump kind of muscling or guaranteeing the win in these maggot districts, the way, with Vance not being able to do it. Vance can't go there and rally the maggots out of the woodwork, shake the maggot tree and have them fall the way Trump can. So he can't go, I'll come to your district in Ohio and guarantee I'll throw my weight behind you and so you can vote this way. That just vanishes over fucking night. And executive orders, as bad as they can be, are still limited and go away when the person is replaced. And if people get a taste of how Vance is president before he runs again, before he gets to run in 2028 or whatever the fuck they think is going to happen, there's a chance that I would argue it's worse for him. It should be a myth that he's running on of what he'll be like. I'll be like Trump, but younger. But if he has to actually do it and you see him doing it and failing because, again, he can't guarantee the maggots will come out of the woodwork, then a lot of his stuff dies on the vine and he's the perfect guy to run against in 2028.
Yeah,
and they won't be able to swap him out.
Yeah. He'll be a lame duck.
Yes.
You know, if Trump suddenly just craps out or whatever happens, and he is no longer president and Vance comes in, even if it were to happen tomorrow, it will be the entire
midterms will be a disaster.
The midterms will be an utter disaster for the Republicans.
Yeah.
And he will govern as badly as he will govern. He's no rocket scientist, and he's got the charisma, of a wet fish. I mean, it's just no. So I'm kind of with you in the sense that I don't think he would be worse. I think he would be pretty much limited in scope and what he could actually do. But he does have this hatred for Ukraine and for Zelensky. So I hope I think the best thing that could possibly happen would be that he's 6 months out from the midterms. Trump is obviously out or whatever, and then Vance just doesn't have the chance to really put through anything, or and then midterms happen and he's absolutely a lame duck for the next 2 years. So I don't know. Look, we're all just kind of speculating.
I have the song ready to
go.
But
you are right. Yeah. Oh boy.
Yeah.
They're gonna lose it. But he is obviously sundowning, as you say. I mean, he's just. The thing he said, one of the things he said when he was sitting there with Zelensky, when it was just him and Zelensky said, "Well, we can't have an election under our Constitution when we're at war." And Trump's like, "Oh, so in 3.5 years, if I have a war,"
right?
And it's like you have absolutely no. There's no control there. There's no, and that's look, when my dad, unfortunately, my mother had a different kind of dementia, but my dad had full on Alzheimer's. He had that's how he went, and that's the kind of shit that happens when you have Alzheimer's, when you have dementia. You get to a place where you just say the first thing that pops into your brain, and you're all over the place, and it's obvious.
That's what I said. Like, he's gonna say the real N-word at some point because he's made this weird little joke out of it, or he's gonna and again, MAGA will, like, there's a chunk of MAGA that will go, "What a boss! Oh my God, he said it because you should be able to say everything. But I'm a free speech absolutist for the win, right? That will be 2% of 2% of MAGA that will do that. Yeah. Everybody else will go, I'm out, whatever it is. Even if I saw those guys. Even if they would, like, he didn't yell it loud, like they'll hate him just for that. They'll get mad. He said it all week. Like, oh my God. And I know a lot of people go, it won't matter. Look, trust me, there's a bunch of this shit that matters, and it's mattering right now. That's why they're having to work so hard. This motherfucker, he took 2 days off golfing between Putin and the Europeans. he'd be golfing all the time if any of this shit worked or they were able to sell any of this to the American people. And the maggot brigade, I just saw fucking yesterday. First of all, we got Epstein documents coming out on Friday, or at least coming to the Congress. They interviewed Bill Barr about a bunch of it. And so the now fight is to release the transcript of the Barr thing because he could not exclude Trump from criminality with him, which is what they got asked about. And they're like, he didn't implicate him at all. Like, yeah, he didn't exclude him either. He avoided the conversation. Release the transcript. Shit, release the video. Let's see it, motherfucker. Talk about the most transparent in history. Okay, that's happening right now. The whole Putin fucking Europe thing was supposed to distract from this shit. So were how awesome the tariffs are, and that, you know, and none of it's doing it. Like, maggot media is fucking hammering this stuff.
I saw that
somebody just said I need to talk to maggots. I talk to maggots all the time. It's a factor of having family in Kentucky and Ohio and in desperate regions of Illinois. So yeah, I know exactly what they will and what they won't do. And I'm also going by you have to take this with a grain of salt, but the chat rooms around Charlie Kirk and the turn in the conversations you see there, because go watch their show with the live chat on, or one of Trump's, gatherings put out by RSBN with the live chat going. It used to be super like chest beating. Oh my God, he's God and man's in the flesh. He's the king and the land are one. And now it's like, why aren't the Epstein files? What the heck is going on? What, Epstein's not dead. Like, and it's not people like us jumping into their chat and fucking with them. It's accounts that have been there for a long time, like with badges and shit.
I mean, I saw those guys. I've seen the MAGA-verse, reaction to what happened in Alaska, and even then, it was just like, come on, guys. I mean, you got to recognize that. But they, they're so invested, some of these guys, that. So I think you're right. I think there will be a percentage that are ride or die. They're in it all the way. But and I hear what other people are saying, and they like it will never. There is nothing that can be done. He will never be deposed because he is their God King. Well, right. You can say that, but do you remember that episode of Black Mirror? Do you ever watch Black Mirror?
Yeah.
You remember the episode where they take some minor royal, some guy takes a minor royal hostage and says that unless the prime minister fucks a pig, they're going to kill this duchess or whatever. And then what happens is, of course, that it turns out that the Duchess was never really kidnapped and all the rest of it. And the country is kind of like has forced him to do this. And they're kind of, the attitude is like, he did this thing to save the life of the Duchess and all the rest of it. La, 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 la. The point I'm circling around here, though, is that at the end of that episode of Black Mirror, it's just, but I just can't get that image out of my head of him fucking the pig. You know, we know he did it for a right reason. We know he's a bit of a hero. You know, he's a hero. He saved the Duchess. He put country before self and all that stuff. But I just can't get the image of him fucking that pig out of my head. And when Trump does whatever Trump is going to do publicly, when he really is deteriorating, if it does happen publicly, as you say, if he's not just in the residence and he keels over, whatever he's going to do, it's going to be something that will be like, you don't walk that back. You don't unring that bell. And I think that's entirely possible.
By the way, Otis and a couple other Mad Max are bringing up like badges. What I was talking about is, you know how subscriber badges, if you're a member versus just a subscriber on any of the channels, that's what I'm talking about. So these are in RSBN and some of these feeds and on Charlie Kirk's network and all these, and the Rumble and that kind of stuff. The longer you've been there, the more channel points you bought or whatever, they have a similar thing on Twitch or whatever. Next to your badge, there will often be little icons or references. You'll be a different color. That's what I'm talking about. There were people on these RSBN feeds and the like that have markings like that. You know, think of it as a verified badge because they've been there so long. So, yeah, Brian Glenn's fucking a pig too. Well, I mean, I got to say, that seems like they're keeping it in the same species. Both of them are very odd. Although he looks like it was, you know, a boar that's been stung by a bee in the face. But that said, it's so weird. So
and her toes.
Don't start with the. All right, we try to stay away from making fun of anything that people can't change. If you've done this to yourself,
fair enough.
You can. That's fine. But the least worrisome, ugly part of Marjorie Taylor Greene to me is her fucking feet. I don't. But what she has done to her physical person over time, including filler, they're all injecting shit into their cheeks and forehead all the time, where they all look kind of ballooned and swollen, like they've been slapping themselves with a rubber strap in the face or some shit. Maybe they have been. Maybe that's my bias. Maybe I'm just giving them the benefit of the doubt that it's filler. Maybe that's just what they're. It's like that old Steve Martin bit, like, it keeps me young. Everyone stay young with Steve, you know. But secondly, I want to remind everybody, because we're getting near the end of the show, and it's been a great one, and I want to thank Lev and Phil for being on with us today. And phew, got through most of it without any tech issues. But in the meantime, On the Edge is Phil's show. Great marathon episode. You may not even be through it, you know, before you get to, you know, the next episode next Sunday. I don't know what, you know, if you've got a regular episode lined up to just ease yourself back into pacing. Yeah.
We have a. Well, it hasn't happened. We haven't recorded it yet, but yeah, we have an interview scheduled for tomorrow afternoon, and then we'll edit it, and it'll be back to the kind of 45-minute, hour 10 mark.
Right. Great. Okay. Well, that's at least reasonable, digestible, as it were. So I think most people are, myself included, are of the opinion that this is just going to end up, they'll be like, the news media will bite at a couple more of these pieces of bait being thrown by Putin and by the White House. But for the most part, everybody's kind of shrugging this off as more bullshit from Donald Trump. And the media, by the way, like the right-wing media, are very mad about this. They're very upset that nobody doesn't, you know, that he hasn't already got a Nobel Prize just for flying to Alaska and talking to Vladimir Putin's body double. He, you know, Trump called himself a war hero, you know, even though he got, 5 deferments for bone spurs and never went to war. It's just so fucking gross. So what do you think? I mean, sort of the next real phase of this situation is, in your opinion, on our way out the door?
I think the Europeans come back, have come back, but now that they have come back, and they're going to start buying everything that they can possibly buy from the United States as quickly as they possibly can. But they're going to try and do it on the QT. There's no way that their negotiations are going to go anywhere. Putin is not ready to talk about anything substantive. And it's going to fall apart. Now, what happens once it's obvious that, Putin is dicking around and that Trump is totally useless? Does Trump do the whole full scale I'm walking away, and not only am I walking away, I'm taking my toys with me? That would be the worst of all. But I think the Europeans will continue to buy everything off the shelf that they can possibly get from the United States and then just transfer it to Ukraine. So that's, I think, the best we can hope for. But he's such an asshole, and he's so temperamental, And you're right. There is a whole group of people in the MAGA movement who, hate the U.S. policy on Ukraine, and they could start, getting loud and obnoxious, and he might listen to them. But as long as the weapons continue to flow, then the Ukrainians can continue to fight, and they can make it through to the midterms for sure, and beyond. I mean, they can make it to the next presidency. It's they're getting bit by bit, kind of, a couple of miles here, a couple of miles there that they lose to the Russians, but it's slow as hell, and
Right.
they're not gonna. They will. I do not think that they will make it to the river before the next president.
Whatever the phase is. Yeah.
Well, yeah, whatever happens politically, domestically within the United States, and whether that's the midterms and we get the House and the Senate and things can be moved that way.
Right.
Whatever it is, I am sure that the Ukrainians can hold out well until the midterms, if not the next presidential, if not, beyond. And then let's get to a place where we really support Ukraine and Ukrainians and stop being afraid of little Vladimir Putin and his nuclear saber rattling. So I think I think there will be a new phase. I don't know if it's going to be, some sort of monumental change, but I do think, after these two meetings, especially, I think the European presence was the more important of the two. I think what happened in Alaska was a fucking farce. But we shall see. We shall see. But they will continue to fight, and the Europeans. I mean, the fact that they dropped everything and went to Washington with Zelensky, the Europeans are becoming more and more unified in their support for Ukraine. So, sadly, though, I mean, the sad part of all of this is that I would have liked to have seen success. I would have liked to have seen a ceasefire or a peace plan. I never believed that one was coming, but this war does have to come to an end. There has got to be an end to this war, and however it happens, I don't care. In so many different ways, as long as it's a peace that's acceptable to Ukraine, then enough. Pain and suffering has been inflicted on this country that I don't care how we get there, but let's get to a place where the shooting stops.
I got a proposal for everybody. Russia can keep the Donbass and Crimea, but all the taxes from that area for the next 100 years, like a 99-year lease that the Brits had of Hong Kong, all the money made there goes to rebuild Ukraine. You can't make money off the area because you seized it by, it's ill-gotten gains. And if you don't do that, then sanctions will be in place to take that amount of money, whatever that is, and it will flex with however many goods are sold out of that area. That will be the sanctioned amount, and it will go towards rebuilding Ukraine. Whether you want to do it or not, you can do it willingly, or you can do it, like, I guess, passively. But you're not going to make money on that area.
Well,
because that wasn't your point.
Right? No complaints for me.
It was about culture. Sure. It was about people. It was about people living on their land and speaking their language. Well, guess what, motherfucker? You can do that. You just can't make money on it. That's it.
You'll hear no argument from me.
Yeah, right. That's the start of where I am. That's my pitch. And and the reason I can say these is because they're all non-starters. Because that's the whole thing with Trump. It's like he doesn't have any connection to any of this any more than Vance does. They don't care. They're devoid of the empathy and intellect to deal with this issue entirely. They got bigger fish to fry at home, and they're incapable of doing those things.
Or
And
the depth of thought, or the depth of thought to understand that one or two steps down the road, yes, it directly affects America. You know, just because it's a European fight between Russia and Ukraine or whatever, they're not Vance. And I mean, obviously Trump, but even Vance included, they don't think it's not. It's got to be chess. You got to always be looking two moves ahead, and you don't have to go very far down that line before you recognize that. It's going to affect America. So
yeah. Well, I appreciate you being on, brother. I will see you on Saturday. Be safe and have a great show or interview later on today or tomorrow, whenever you do it in your time zone. Mm-hmm. And I look forward to seeing it. People should check out On the Edge on your YouTube channel at Philip Ittner, 1 L in Philip, 2 T's in Ittner. Like and subscribe to all the channels and help everybody out. And you're awesome. Yeah. All right.
Take care, bud.
All right. Thanks.
See ya.
Cheers. There he goes, ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Philip Ittner. And if I may, the greatest chat room in the history of chat rooms. What's going on, people? How are you? I should put you guys, first of all, put you over, maybe it won't allow me to do that. I guess maybe, hold on, man. Does this allow? Put this over there. Like this. Hide that. No, okay. I guess it only stays over the chat is always over there. No matter what I do, it will always be over there. That's fine. Okay. On this one, Miss Love Parnas it was great. Grumpy Cat, please. I recommend anybody, if you missed the first hour of the show, go back and watch it. Great conversation. And I'm glad you guys liked the t-shirt today. Say when. I some days you just need a little, I don't know, little Val in your life. You know what I mean? That's where are we? This guy right here. There you go. You know what I mean? So you guys are fantastic. I will see you later on. I'm going to try I need to get a say when as well. Because all I have is, which is great. And I have a couple of other things. I need to put that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put all of my Val stuff in its own little line, so that I have access to it anytime I want, especially, which I think applies to so much these days. And of course, by the way, can I just say, Pat Proft is a fucking genius. Just saying. There we go. And there we go. That's where it crashed through the window. That in there. And then, cool. So anyways, you guys are wonderful. I will talk to you later on this afternoon. Oh, you couldn't hear it? Oh, okay, rats. It should be going out, isn't it? Hold on. Oh, maybe that's it. Could I? Yeah, it should. Hold on. There it went. Oh, do I just have that mic on there right now? Is it being a dick? No, there it is. You guys heard that? Did you? Anyways, okay. We'll see. I'll figure it out. Thank you, Eileen. It was a great show. I appreciate it. I'm going to go back to crawling around under my fucking desk and pulling wires. And it's always nice to know that I can call technical support if I need. Hello. Yes. Did you bring the car around? Thank you. And don't forget to restock the bar with the little apricots. Yes. Well, no, the chauffeur has a fever blister, and it apparently has the lysine or whatever it is in there. I don't know how it works, but he nibbles on them all the time. And I just don't, I like the fellow, and I don't want to have to keep the glass up the entire time. Thank you. Yes, absolutely. I'm wearing a Val Kilmer shirt and no pants at all. Why do you, we'll talk about this later. First, no audio on that one. Did I just went away all of a sudden? Oh, there was no audio on that one. I see. Okay. I'll work that out. All right. Much love to you guys. I'll see you later. Take care of yourselves and take care of somebody else. And then, I think I have to make let's see, add a goodbye scene. I think so. Let's see. Let's add a. Should we do? Yeah, do a media scene. There we go. And we'll use that. And I think, and I put this add a video source, which would be this thing. We'll throw that in there, and then I will go away, removing myself